Larry, I want to go now to our second guest on the program here. Bill Wood is on the phone. He's a finance expert at Wright State University, professor there. Thanks for being with us. Bill, can you hear us okay?
I can, yes. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Bill. Turn your radio down. Many of us have been seeing questions that have been sent, and they've come by email and text, and my neighbor's stopping me. And every time I go to the grocery store, the few times it's been, everybody has got a question about what I should do with my money. What are you telling us now, Bill?
Well, I wanted to reiterate the idea that there's nothing. The coronavirus issue has not affected banks at all, and I'm surprised to see the lines at the tellers and things. And there's just really no effect whatsoever on banks. There's no reason for banks to run out of money, and people should not be concerned at all with the safety of their banks, of their money at a bank or a credit union. That's just not the case economically today. But in terms of what to do with the money, it's stay calm and carry on. In these unprecedented times, it's difficult to say that, but that's the best thing to do, is not to react emotionally to this very volatile market.
Okay, well, let's talk about markets first, and then we'll go to Larry for his questions that are coming in from Facebook and on a radio call-in number.
Sure.
Bill, how are you advising people? Some people very, very early on said, if I'm in the stock market, I got to get out, I got to jump out. And people have been looking at their 401ks and then deciding maybe I shouldn't be looking at them at all. How are you advising people on that?
Well, everything's on sale. If you have a job and you are still contributing to your 401k, you should continue to contribute and continue to invest those contributed dollars. Everything's on sale, and eventually this too shall pass. And 10 years from now, we'll be looking back on this the same. Gee, I'm glad I got the opportunity to buy everything on sale. I know that's difficult for many investors to see at the moment, but that's the case.
Okay, let's go to Larry Haskett in our radio studios. He's been tracking all the questions that have been coming in. Larry, what have you got so far this morning?
Well, Bill, I'm going to try to take a lot of questions and combine them into one, because there's been numerous questions about the stimulus checks and how they are linked to tax, filing your taxes. And the questions range from people who are on Social Security and are not filing an income tax report each year, to those who perhaps took a disbursement from their 401k, which skewed their income higher. How is the stimulus check? Is it that tied into an income tax return? What are some of these issues?
Well, it is tied into your income tax return. For those people that have filed already in 2019, then the income levels that dictate how much of the stimulus check you will receive will be based on 2019 adjusted gross income. If you have not yet filed, it'll be based on your 2018 adjusted gross income. Even if some taxpayers, or even if some individuals had income last year or this year low enough that it didn't require a tax filing, the IRS still has the ability to contact your information and know what your adjusted gross income was last year, and can still find you and still provide that stimulus check to you.
Okay, this question came up in the newsroom the other day. This was, the Congress is trying to get the economy rolling and keep rolling so we can get through all of this. Is it big enough? Is it long enough? Do the checks come quick enough to get us through this? In your estimation, Bill, from where you sit, is this big enough and quick enough to get us through this?
I think it's certainly quick enough. My understanding is that the first round of two stimulus checks should be in taxpayers' hands within a couple of weeks, and that's necessary. We've certainly families that have a laid off family member that they're not bringing in any earned income. They filed for unemployment, and that should be coming very quickly as well. It's important that those dollars get into the hands of the American population quickly, so that they have less concern for putting food on the table and taking care of the necessary expenses of the household. There's a lot of stimulus a lot of aspects of the stimulus plan that have delayed foreclosures, for example, and other kinds of circumstances that might have otherwise exacerbated the American family situation. So I think getting the money into the hands of the American people quickly is important, and it appears that that is in fact going to be the case within a couple of weeks anyway.
Yeah, at least for a couple of weeks. Larry, what else? What else are people asking about?
Well, this might have been a better question for Kimberly before, but maybe Bill can help us out as well. Someone wanted to know church employees, people that work for nonprofits, are they eligible for unemployment as those who work in the for-profit sector?
Well, I don't know. I don't know that I would say specifically that I know that answer, but I would assume that it would be because they provide an important role and function in their businesses, and even though they work for not-for-profit, they still get a paycheck. So I would assume they would still be eligible for these stimulus support checks as well. Yes.
You know, as soon as I asked that question, I realized that I had the answer. I'm on the board of a nonprofit, and one of the things that came up at our board meeting is our ability to pay those employees who are not able to work due to the coronavirus, and that we will in fact be paying them unemployment. So as soon as I asked the question, I realized I had the answer.
Well, the expanded unemployment at state and federal levels will help that as well, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Bill, I want to ask about mortgages. And these are for those people who are on the bubble. This check that's going to be coming from the feds in a couple of weeks is not going to cover all of their expenses. For almost all of us, I think this is not the case. But for those people who are not going to be able to make their mortgage, what's their best play here? How might they be able to weather this storm?
Well, again, I think there are several aspects of the stimulus package that would address mortgages and the default that might happen as a result of not paying mortgages, and those have been delayed. And my guess is that if it becomes an issue, it will delays will be the default on those will be delayed even further. Theoretically, there's an opportunity, and I don't encourage this, but there's part of the stimulus package allowed for expanded borrowing from 401ks and IRAs. Again, that's the very last resort that should be used. We don't want to mortgage our future by taking money out of our 401k. It should be there and growing when we eventually get out of this. But it seems like there's always concerns for mortgages, and that was one of the very first things that was addressed in the stimulus package was the delay of defaults and mortgage payment delays, and most banks are following that lead.
Okay, that's good news. Bill, stay on the phone. Larry, stay in the radio studios. We're going to take a break here. When we come back, many of you have been sending in your questions to WHIO Radio about the coronavirus, how to handle this in a difficult financial situation through the pandemic. We'll be answering more of those questions and calls when we hear from our expert on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Welcome back to WHI Reports. I'm Jim Oddie. Thanks for being with us. Today we're talking about the impact the pandemic is having on businesses, the economy, people's personal finances. Larry's in the radio studio. Larry.
Well, the Governor DeWine has been saying this week that we want this over as quickly as possible. He shares the frustration with President Trump and wants to get people back to work as soon as possible.
Yeah, the governor said protecting people and protecting the economy are not mutually exclusive. They are tied together. He said if our hospitals were to get overwhelmed, thousands of people were to get sick and need care, our doctors and nurses were to get sick, he said it would be truly disruptive to our economy. We've been taking calls and questions from our viewers, listeners, people who are on Facebook or watching this now as we stream it there. Larry, and we still have our guest with us, Bill Wood from Wright State University. Larry, what other big questions is out there now on the financial side of this crisis?
You know, so many of the questions that have rolled in have been in regards to the stimulus checks, which the Treasury Secretary Mnuchin says will be direct deposited within the next 3 weeks. So the check is in the mail for many people, but a lot of people have questions, and so many of the ones that have come in have been, I'm on Social Security, I'm on some type of disability, I am caring for a special needs child, and his Social Security is my only income. Do you know, Bill, what the eligibility is for those individuals when it comes to a stimulus check?
Larry, I don't specifically, but clearly Social Security checks are now, and disability checks are automatic deposited now. So direct deposit is a way of life for the federal government, and so that should mean that those individuals will be receiving their stimulus checks in a very timely manner. And I would assume that if you're caring for a disabled individual and the benefits they receive are part of what supports the family, then they would receive their share of the stimulus support checks as well.
When that check comes in, Bill, what is your strategy, or what should be each family's strategy about where to apply that? Because for some, they're looking at all kinds of bills across the board. Some are more urgent than others. What do you do with that money?
That's very true, and that's a difficult circumstance, and that's almost a family-by-family decision. Clearly, we have to put food on the table and care for young ones. And again, as we've been saying, the mortgage payment part of the stimulus package is delaying payments for mortgages, and those are typically larger dollars. So this is intended to be money that supports the family of an unemployed individual until that unemployment starts to flow from the federal or state government level. So this is money that should be available very quickly and used for regular family types of expenses to keep the family together and keep food on the table and I guess toilet paper in the bathroom over the course of the next couple of weeks until the stimulus until the federal unemployment money begins to flow as well.
Okay, thank you, Bill Wood. Thank you for your suggestions and advice here. Larry Haskett, thanks for being with us on radio as well. That's all the time we have for today's WHI Reports. I want to thank our guests for being with us today. Join us next week for another edition of WHI Reports. I'm Jim Otte. I'll see you then.